In the heart of a bustling city park, where the sun filtered through tall oak trees and cast gentle shadows on the winding paths, a young nanny named Anna knelt on the soft grass. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out to a little girl who was sobbing uncontrollably. The child's face was streaked with tears, her small body shaking with fear. "Shh, it's okay, sweetie," Anna whispered, her voice soft and steady, like a warm blanket on a chilly day. Little did Anna know, this simple act of kindness would change her life forever. Anna Thompson was 25, with tired eyes that spoke of long hours and little rest. She had grown up in a small apartment on the edge of town, where money was always tight and dreams felt far away. Her parents had worked hard, her father at a factory, her mother cleaning houses, but they could barely make ends meet. After high school, Anna took whatever jobs she could find, waitressing, dog walking, and now, nannying for families who could afford help. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, just enough to keep her afloat. She wore a faded blue dress that day, one she'd mended herself, and her shoes were scuffed from walking miles each week. The park was her escape, a place of green lawns and laughing children, far from the noisy streets and her cramped room. She had been hired by a single father named Ethan Harrington to watch his daughter, Sophie, for a few hours each afternoon. Ethan was always in a rush, all suit pressed, phone in hand, disappearing into his car without much talk. Anna assumed he was just another busy parent, perhaps a salesman or office worker. She never asked questions, it wasn't her place. Her job was simple: keep Sophie safe, play games, and make sure she smiled. Sophie Harrington was 5 years old, with curly brown hair tied in pigtails and big blue eyes that sparkled when she was happy. But today, those eyes were wide with terror. It had started innocently enough. They were playing near the duck pond, feeding breadcrumbs to the birds. Sophie giggled as the ducks waddled closer, their feathers ruffling in the breeze. The air smelled of fresh earth and distant rain, a calm autumn afternoon. Then, without warning, a loud crack echoed through the park, a branch snapping from a nearby tree, startled by a gust of wind. To Sophie, it sounded like thunder, like the monsters from her bedtime stories coming to life. She froze, then burst into tears, clinging to Anna's leg. "The monster, it's coming," she wailed, her voice high and piercing. Other park-goers glanced over, some with sympathetic smiles, others hurrying past. Anna's heart ached for the child. She remembered her own fears as a little girl, storms that rattled the windows, shadows that danced on the walls. Scooping Sophie up, Anna carried her to a quiet bench under a willow tree, its branches swaying like gentle arms. There, Anna said softly, rocking Sophie back and forth. The bench creaked under their weight, a soothing rhythm. She brushed a strand of hair from Sophie's face, feeling the warmth of her cheek. "No monsters here, I promise, just you and me, and the nice ducks." Sophie sniffled, burying her face in Anna's shoulder. The nanny hummed a lullaby her mother had sung to her, a simple melody about stars and dreams. Slowly, the sobs quieted to whimpers, then to silence. Anna felt a swell of pride in these moments. She mattered. As the minutes ticked by, Anna glanced at her watch. Ethan was due soon. She wondered about him sometime. As a tall, with sharp features and a kind but distant smile, he always paid her on time, in cash, with a quick thank you before rushing off. Sophie adored him, chattering about Daddy's big office and fancy cars, but Anna dismissed it as a child's imagination. Fathers were heroes in stories, after all. The park grew quieter as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks. Leaves rustled underfoot as people strolled by, a jogger with earbuds, a couple holding hands. Anna pointed out a squirrel scampering up a tree, trying to distract Sophie. "Look, he's dancing just for you." The girl peeked out, a tiny smile breaking through. But then, Sophie's eyes widened again. "What if the monster comes back?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Anna paused, thinking carefully. She wanted to build trust, to make Sophie feel safe. "Well," she said slowly, "even if something scary happens, we can face it together, like superheroes." She flexed her arm playfully, making Sophie giggle. The tension eased, but Anna felt a pain in her chest. Her own life was full of quiet struggles, bills piling up, a leaky roof she couldn't afford to fix. Comforting Sophie reminded her of what she longed for: stability, a family of her own someday. Unbeknownst to Anna, Ethan Harrington was no ordinary father. He was the CEO of Harrington Tech, a multi-million-dollar company that built innovative software for businesses worldwide. His days were filled with board meetings, international calls, and decisions that moved markets. But at home, he was just dad, trying to balance work with raising Sophie after his wife's passing 2 years ago. Grief had made him guarded, focused on providing for his daughter. He hired nannies like Anna because he trusted their references, but he rarely got to know them. Today, though, he arrived early, parking his sleek black sedan at the park's edge and walking over quietly. From a distance, Ethan watched the scene unfold. Anna's gentle words, her patient hug said they touched something in him. Sophie had been having nightmares lately, waking up terrified, and he felt helpless. Seeing Annie handle it with such care made him pause. He approached slowly, his polished shoes crunching on the gravel path. "Sophie?" "Anna?" His voice was deep, calm. Sophie looked up, her face lighting up. "Daddy!" She wriggled free and ran to him, wrapping her arms around his legs. Ethan knelt, hugging her tightly. "What happened, princess?" Anna stood, smoothing her dress, feeling a bit awkward. She got scared by a loud noisy branch breaking, but she's okay now. She smiled faintly, expecting him to nod and leave as usual. Ethan looked at her, really looked, for the first time. Her kind eyes, the way she stood with quiet strength. "Thank you," he said, his tone sincere. "You've been wonderful with her." I don't say that enough." Anne blushed, waving it off. "It's my job, Mr. Harrington." "Please, call me Ethan." He glanced at Sophie, who was now chattering about the ducks. "Would you mind staying a bit longer? Maybe join us for ice cream?" "Sophie's been talking about you non-stop." Annie hesitated. It wasn't professional, but something in his eyes so warm, genuine made her nod. "Sure, that sounds nice." They walked to a nearby vendor, the air filled with the sweet scent of waffle cones. Sophie skipped between them, holding both their hands. As they sat on a picnic table, licking vanilla scoops, Ethan opened up. "It's been hard since my wife passed. Work keeps me too busy, sometimes, but seeing how you calmed Sophie today, it means a lot." Anna listened, her heart softening. She shared a bit about her own life via the struggles, the small joys. "I love kids," she said. "They remind me to keep going." The conversation flowed easily, like a gentle stream. Sophie fell asleep on Ethan's lap, exhausted from the day. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the park, Ethan turned to Anna. "I have to confess something. I'm not just any dad. I run a company, Harrington Tech. We're doing well, but it doesn't make up for time with Sophie." Anna's eyes widened. "A millionaire CEO?" She had no idea. The plot twisted in her mind. The poor nanny, unaware of his world. But it didn't change how she saw him. A father, vulnerable and caring. "That's surprising," she admitted. "But it doesn't matter. You're a good dad." Ethan smiled, a real one that reached his eyes. "You've been more than a nanny to us. How about a full-time position, better pay, benefits, and maybe dinner sometime, just us?" Anna's heart raced. It was a gentle twist, opening doors she never expected. She thought of her tiny apartment, the worries that kept her up at night, but more than that, she thought of Sophie, of building something real. "I'd like that," she said softly. As they parted ways, the park lights flickered on, stars peeking through the twilight. Anna walked home with a lightness in her step, the day's events replaying like a warm memory. Life had a way of surprising you, she realized, a kindness bridging worlds, fear turning to hope. In the days that followed, Anna accepted the offer. She moved into a guest room in Ethan's spacious home, becoming part of their family. Sophie thrived, her fears fading under Anna's care. And between Anna and Ethan, a quiet romance bloomed. Walks in the park, shared laughs over dinner. He taught her about his world of innovation. She reminded him of the simple joys. One evening, as they watched Sophie play in the garden, Ethan took Anna's hand. "You comforted more than a terrified little girl that day," he said. "You healed us both." Anna smiled, tears in her eyes. "And you gave me a future I never dreamed of." Their story became one of unexpected connections, proving that empathy could bridge any divide. In a world of rush and riches, sometimes the greatest wealth was found in a kind heart. And so, dear listener, remember, A small act of comfort can spark the biggest changes. Reach out today, help someone, and see where it leads.